5, 4, 3.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another week of Look Who's Chalking. We're here. I guess we can call this the middle of the season, because if you're at the bye weeks, to me, that's the middle of the season. I mean, look, we're week 7 here, right? Yeah, we're at week 7. And I don't know. There's only, 10 games on this. So we got a bunch of teams on bye. This is kind of what I'm looking for. So I don't care if there's a bunch of good matchups, bad matchups. Just eliminate me players, and I'll point and I'll say, hey, look, this is a week you can take Ramondre Stevenson. That's what we did last week. And if it wasn't for a concussion that pulled him out of that game, I'm telling you, he's getting over 20 points, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm still sick.
I'm sick.
Over that Devontae Smith 2 weeks ago.
Oh, my God. 2 weeks in a row now.
About came to the forefront. Yeah, Devontae Smith. How about we start with that, by the way? How about the number 2 receivers who were supposed to be 1B receivers?
End of the second
Smith,
round. These dudes, by the way.
Jalen Waddle and T. Higgins. Those are the big 3 where you go, oh, it's just as good as having a number 1. Well, I had to take that one on the chin because all 3 of them, 2 times a coincidence, 3rd time's a trend, that whole saying, the hell's going on with that?
Yeah. I mean, Waddle was middle second round. Higgins and Devontae were at the turn. Disaster. At least Waddle, who Men's Warehouse had a touchdown, saved his day a little bit. But man, it's been rough sledding for those guys so far. Ramondre, great call. Running back ended up being this gauntlet last week. Raheem Mostert, which, by the way, we knew Mostert was an amazing play. We talked about it. We went through all the chalky running back options. We could have not imagined. No one could have imagined that Raheem Mostert was going to be 50% owned in the large field GPP. 50. I mean, that's like, we're talking, you're going to the fucking store, you're getting, I don't know, you're fill it up regular. Everyone's doing it. It's insane.
It's mega chalk. Do you remember those Crayola boxes where it was like mega chalk, those thick pieces that was meant for sidewalks? Well, Mostert was meant for
you went
sidewalks.
To school, everyone got the 64 pack. You had to get the 64 pack with all the colors. You do that. Yeah, everyone got that. Yeah, it was super chalk. And yeah, the mega chalk on the sidewalks, that's what we had with Mostert. And yet it was a great play. What are you going to do? Like, it's a real paradox because, like, we knew it was a great play. On the surface, it was a great play. If we knew he was going to be owned at 50%, we probably would have said it was a bad play just because that's obscene ownership. Yet, we thought he was going to be on like 32, 33%. We still said it was an okay play. So, like, then everyone still plays him. And then we're in this paradoxical circle. But regardless, that Dolphins team is the only thing in the NFL right now that seems to be consistent because it's been a bloodbath, man. No one played well last week. We saw losses from the 49ers and the Eagles at undefeated. And, quarterback play's been down. We've had a ton of injuries. Like, it's been really bad in the NFL. And last week was really a bad week where no one really got much right. I gave people Drake London. I hope people listen to that. We liked Kieran Williams. We liked Raheem Mostert. ETN was also optimal. All these guys were good. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a good pivot that not many people played. But
I want to say an RIP to the Chalkroach, because if you guys heard the undertones with me, I was a Chalkroach defender. These people coming out saying he's only benefiting from the touches. I saw more from the Chalkroach. I did. I kept saying, like, no, he's close to like when you saw Giovanni Bernard play in his first 2 or 3 years, where he was elusive and he was able to get some work done. Yes, guys like that, they have short shelf lives. They really can't be interior runners for long stretches, and we found that out the hard way on a meaningless carry too, when the game was out of hand and they put him back in there after he ran for that great touchdown, but fighting for yards after the contact. I hope the Chalkroach has a new narrative with all the fantasy experts, because I was seeing a whole hell of a lot more. And I'll tell you when someone looks awful. I told you Mixon looked awful last year. He's looked awful ever since. It was easy for me to lay off him of the chalky bunch. Like, what's like a Marky Mark and the funky bunch? Something in the chalky bunch.
Yeah, right. Joe Mixon and the chalky bunch. We hit that, and we were right. But yes, and now with Kieran Williams out, the Rams, they go out. So they have Zach Evans. They drafted in the 6th round. I presume he's going to be the RB1, but who knows? They signed Myles Gaskin off of practice squad. They bring up Royce Freeman, and they sign freaking Darrell Henderson back off the streets. Now it's a hodgepodge, if you will, a chalk podge of Rams guys we have to figure out. And it's no fun because if we knew who it was going to be, that would be the chalky player. I think the field will gravitate to Zach Evans, but that's a spot this week. I think they have a good matchup this week, the Rams, if I recall. And I
think they're at home against Pittsburgh, which I think is a theoretical good spot. I'm not going to call that an actual good spot.
I got a sneaky spot this week. So we should dive in because this slate, by the way, I did my first look show on yesterday morning, and this slate to me looks ugly. There's one game at 425, Chargers at Chiefs, that stands out, right? It's a 49. Everyone's going to attack that.
We can start with that, but ugly. I do have good news for you, Gary. I have random ass cheap running backs who you're going to just like you said, Ramondre. I got a guy who I can't imagine anyone being excited over, but I got him this week. He's cheap, and then there's another potential guy. We have to see about his playing status, but if he plays, oh boy, we gotta get him in there if we have the opportunity to. Let's start with that game. Let's start with that game you just mentioned. And what I'm going to say is I refuse, because the same way I'm able to watch Kieran/Kyron, I've heard it pronounced differently depending on who says it. The same way I saw him, I go, no, this is not some bum who's just benefiting from 25 touches. That would be Joe Mixon. This is a guy who has a little something. Every time I watch the Chiefs defense, I feel like I'm watching the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. You get nothing on these guys every single game. Justin Jefferson can't get open. Nobody on the Broncos is doing anything. Javonte Williams looked kind of okay. Nobody's doing anything on them every single week. And since KC isn't crushing teams yet with their passing offense, it's turning into these defense murders you game, and Pacheco's the only guy coming through with value in all these games. I think that Kelsey looks a little bit slower, and other than last week against the Broncos, who everybody goes over 100 yards, he had no 100-yard performances, and when you're putting him out there at 8,000, I just don't think you can get those 170-yard, 2 to 3 touchdown games from Kelsey anymore. And I'm just not playing Kelsey. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy. I'm not seeing it from him. He can't take one up the seam for 40 yards anymore. He's got to really fight his way there. And for me, I'd rather spend my money elsewhere. I'd rather find enough for Cooper Kupp, who's just murdering out there. It looks like prime Cooper Kupp, that invest in Kelsey and these damn KC games that I refuse to believe will blow up until I see it.
So you're saying a handful of things there, and I don't disagree with you on much. You're basically saying you like the under here, which, listen, I don't disagree. We're at like a 49, so Vegas is baking that in, because in previous years, this would be like a 52, right? 52, 51 and a half, 52, 52 and a half. We're at a 49. The Chargers are on a short week. They continue to disappoint week in, week out, because God knows why. Brandon Staley's a terrible coach. They can't get themselves over that hump. Herbert makes mistakes in big moments. A couple things that I'll comment on. Don't disagree with you on Pacheco in any way. He's coming through early. Again, we're here Wednesday night this week. Very early runs. Pacheco's your chalkiest player on DraftKings as of right now. Which I get.
Good news though. Good news. He's not one of my guys this weekend.
Okay,
I'm just saying,
I get, but I get the play. I mean, he's a good play. He's going to be a cash play. He's 6,100. We love the role, and something you were on before the rest of the people, and I told you about this last week. He's got a pass game role now. I think I heard Adam and Evan say on the Team by Team pod, he's got a 19% target share this season. I mean, that's crazy for a guy that we looked at as between the tackles back. Now, as you were on early, as I said, now he's catching the ball. I'm not as off Kelsey as you are. My good friend and co-host of all the Showdown shows they do, Cody Main, had a lot of good stats on the Chargers and how vulnerable they are in the middle of the field. So I don't want to be completely off it, but tight end this week is a gauntlet in its own right, meaning we have Travis Kelsey at 8K, and then we take a huge dive down to a 5,700 Mark Andrews. And we know the ceiling between Mark Andrews and Travis Kelsey is not $2,300. We know that the difference there is not that. So DraftKings once again made pricing very tight this week. And I like Mahomes just fine, because I think we've seen quarterbacks crush the Chargers all year. Dak did it again on Monday night. But if you're on Mahomes, you probably want Kelsey at the very least if you can. And now that Kelsey Mahomes stack is freaking 16-3 combined. I mean, it's very difficult to get to. And I'm not ruling it out for tournaments because I think there's a massive ceiling there, and I want Mahomes as well. But man, it's expensive, and that money matters this year because if you pull up what I have on my screen here, you'll see what the optimal quarterback has been over the last couple of weeks. And for 2 weeks in a row right now, the optimal quarterback has been Desmond Ridder. And that is because, yes, the Falcons' passing offense has been impressive over the last couple of weeks, and game script-wise has made them pass. But we're still looking at a Desmond Ridder that's been 5K and 5.2 that has now been optimal for 2 weeks in a row. And that is the current state of DraftKings quarterback. So playing 8-3 for Patrick Mahomes is not an easy task.
And if you can bring up that game on DraftKings, if you can just show me Kelsey's point total so far this year. So if you go over to the tight end tab there. Where is this guy? Okay.
I got him.
If we go to that game log.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row here. Been pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
I still believe in the talent.
Pretty good. Yes, 24-22. That ain't cutting the mustard for 8,000. And what I'm trying to argue from what I see, whether it, is just, this is 2 injuries already within 6-7 weeks, is that 35-point ability it looks way less there from him than somebody else. There's that saying, pay up to be contrarian. I agree with it as long as the guy you paid up for still has. You want to pay up to be contrarian with Jalen Waddle? It's a guy still in his athletic prime. He could go off for 150. I'm starting to question the 33, 34-year-old Kelsey with 2 nagging leg injuries that he's going to be able to have one of these 150-yard days. 100-yard performance against the team that Justin Fields threw for like 350 against. So I'm going to devalue that a little bit. But other than that, look at the game before. He got 11 catches to get to 67. This is my main issue with him this year. I just don't know if I see the massive ceiling games. We'll see, though. We will see.
I still think he was playing hurt that Minnesota game, and credit to him for getting 11 targets and being out there. But I would like Kelsey this week if he was coming through with low ownership. And again, I really need to preface how early in the week we're doing this. But my first ownership run on ETR looks at 16.7% Travis Kelsey right now because he's projecting that much better than every other tight end. Basically a neutral value at 8K. So our projections are basically saying, hey, he is expected to pay off that tag at least 50% of the time. 8K is a lot. 8K is a lot. And there's some value plays on the slate. So if you want to get there, you can. But the rest of the field could do it too. And that's why you're looking at 16.7%. It's a lot. And I kind of agree with you. I like the play. I like this game. I don't want to disregard it. But I'm also not attacking it head on when you consider the prices of the guys you need to get the ceiling.
If I'm going to do that, what I would do is I would go with Mahomes, and I'll eat the chalk with Rice because I would imagine everyone's excited to play him.
He's not looking too much because he's now up to 47. I don't know if Mecole Hardman's going to be available this week. But
come on! If this was last year, you would never be worried about Hardman. If we
were
talking about
Schuster, of course not. But at least he knows the system. They have 9 receivers, so if that guy comes, regardless, none of those guys. It's Pacheco, Kelsey, Mahomes that are all going to get some ownership, and then after that, you could take your pick of receivers. Maybe Rashee will get steamed up a little bit, but right now, 4,700 Rashee Rice is looking at only 5-ish% ownership. So
anyway, going back to what I was saying, well, Rice it's just increased involvement, a little more confidence from the coaching staff. And what I didn't know until last week when I saw him just catch one like after 4 yards, man, when he gets going with a head of steam, that kid can move. He was flying. I was like, holy Jesus.
I agree with the talent. I believe in the talent, which is why I kind of talked him up on this show last week. So,
I wasn't aware. Like, I knew he was a big body and was like a red zone threat. I didn't know if he could get it in an open field, he can start moving like that. Yep. So between all those guys, he's showing the capability. But that's the only reason I bring that up is to not spend on Kelsey and pay for him, because my memory just going off the top of my head tells me that Keenan Allen has had some massive games against Kansas City. And the way Kansas City's been playing defense, when you think about just throwing the ball, getting it out of your hand, and moving the sticks, this seems like it should be a perfect Keenan Allen game. So I would imagine Keenan Allen, in my head, if I'm throwing a Mahomes stack, I'm doing Mahomes, Rice. I'm paying a ton for Allen, but I can live with that. We've seen multiple crazy 11, 12 catch games from Allen, and I would prefer doing that over stacking him with Kelsey and then running your chalky, Josh Palmer going back the other way or something.
So my only counter would be that obviously the Chargers pricing came in before Monday night. Austin Eckler had a full role. If you look historically, Keenan Allen does still have a floor with Austin Eckler there, but ceiling-wise, he does not have the games that we were talking about from 2-3 weeks ago, which were the 200-yard games, the 14-catch games. He still has a 10 for 100 and a touchdown game. He's got that for sure. Don't get me wrong. Where is it? I don't know why it's sorting by this.
I mean, what you're saying is true, but
what I'm about to say is Keenan Allen coming through with 24% projected ownership early runs. Austin Eckler, who's your most expensive running back on the slate, and also you talk about that extension of the run game, the short passes. He's the same exact price, and he's coming through with 9-10%. I would go Eckler personally.
Me too.
But it's I get it. I totally get the Keenan thing.
No. I'm with you on that. It's either or. I just assumed that nobody was going to be playing Allen because if people were going to stack Mahomes, I thought they would stack Kelsey, and then they can't afford.
With no Mike Williams,
all right,
and with his output so far this year, the dude's just projecting so well. So it's I get it, but also they haven't been. Chiefs defense has been stingy. So
beyond
it's
stingy,
Herbert,
man. Nobody's getting anything on them every single week. Who's moved the ball on the Chiefs? Anybody name me one team who's moved the ball on the Chiefs? But for some reason, they're one of the cheaper defenses on the slate.
Yeah, they're going to be on.
Are people watching the same thing that I'm watching out there?
The defense is going to be on. And the thing is, again, I talked about this Chargers team was priced before Monday Night Football. Herbert is $8K, ridiculously expensive. This game's in Arrowhead. It's a tough matchup. My only argument is because he's only $300 cheaper than Mahomes. And when I did the first look show, I said, hey, I don't want anything to do with Herbert at $8K when he's only $300 left than Mahomes in KC. But, he's thrown the ball over 30 times in 4 out of 5 games. At $8K, no one is going to go there. No one. This guy will be unowned virtually in tournaments. Do with that what you will. It's a tough click. It's a very tough click at 8K.
It's the toughest click. Nobody likes Herbert more than me. I told you, I said, Gary, have faith. He has the ceiling. Earlier in the, I'm like, he has it. I know you say he doesn't. He's getting to 30.
He's been getting there. Yeah, no, things change. Kellen Moore comes in. He gets healthier. He's been better. No doubt.
For power sweep with my big 3, where I say these are my 3 that I'm investing, a lot in, I'm not playing anybody in any of these Chiefs games until that 1 week where the Chiefs go, oh, this is how we get the passing game going. And the defense decides to let up a sliver of anything because nobody is putting up. When you shut down Justin Jefferson, that should put the league on notice. And don't say he got injured. He did nothing before that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. St. Brown had an okay game, but was saved by a touchdown. These are mega stars that they're keeping off the charts. So I'm out. I mean, yes, big tournaments, millionaire, the $3, the $1, fine. Millionaire, $3.
The one guy was that who the one guy that did some stuff against him was Garrett Wilson, which is hilarious, because the Jets are such a joke. But yeah, no, I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree. And it makes you're basically saying you're off this game a little bit, despite it probably projecting the best. But a lot of salary and a lot of questions.
The crazy thing is, why are people on?
They are on it because this week is ugly. So this is the only 49. And then after that, you got 44.5 in Cardinals Seahawks, 44.5 in Packers Broncos, 43 Steelers Rams. I have another game that I think is kind of sneaky that I want to talk about. But other than that, it's an ugly week. It's only 10 games. Our team totals are very low up and down the board. So there's one game that theoretically could go back and forth. The field's going to click on it.
All right. You want to click so we can see the whole kind of rosters there of the league? Yeah. So as we're looking down here at this slate, I mean, it's ugly. but it's not beyond ugly. Like, it's not, oh my God, there's not a single thing that you can do right there. I mean, when you're looking at that Baltimore-Detroit game,
that's the one, man, that stands out to me. And I have not looked at ownership yet, but I was shocked that it didn't have higher over under. We're at a 42.5 with a 3-point spread. There's something sneaky about that game. And I don't like the Lions as much on the road, but there's something sneaky about that game for sure.
And nobody ever wants to bet a team like, Packers are playing the Broncos, but the Broncos, other than that last game we saw, are getting in these games where they're not stopping anything, and then they're getting points going back. I mean, that can be a weird one. One of my best sniffs of this week is Christian Watson. Look at what these other people have done to the Broncos through the air. And Watson ran a bunch of deep routes. And I'm talking about the air yards must have been around 200 because he was throwing him 50-yard passes one after another. He completed one of them for like 77. He ended up with, I think, 90 or something. If he catches either one of those other ones, he's a guy who can go for like 180 in this game. If he, hey, look, you got that air over there in Denver, the air up there. One of those deep balls gets caught at that price. Now that you're getting full health, he's a great play, in my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously, tournament fields will go there, but maybe not as much as you think. We're projecting 10% right now, which to me at 5,600 is completely fine. Aaron Jones, by the way, assuming he's back, 6,800. We talk about how running back calls all of these injuries pay up to get contrarian, 3%. Jordan Love.
You got to be careful. He came back and got hurt and then left the game. When somebody does
AJ
that.
Dillon's so bad, and he's got the pass game role, and this defense is so bad. Like, I would take the shot in tournaments. I would take the shot. Jordan Love, 10% at 58. I totally get that. He should be owned. This is definitely a spot to attack. There's no doubt about it.
And probably my favorite player until further notice is Cooper Kupp. And the Chalkroach was very good as a running back for them and the way they play in a bunch of little screens. But with them having nobody they can trust now, to me, that's even more Cooper Kupp. And he's very expensive. My guess, back-to-back big weeks, people got to love him. And he is very damn expensive. But holy crap, I was hoping I was seeing that wrong. 9,500 Christian McCaffrey prices.
Yep. But that's what he should be, because he looks like 2 years ago Cooper Kupp. And I'll tell you, the field's going to get there because there's value. There's value at quarterback. We talked about Jordan Love, Geno Smith. There's value at quarterback, and there's going to be value at running back. And because of that, people are going to pay 9,500 for Cooper Kupp. We're looking at around 20% ownership right now. One of the value pieces is on his own team in Zach Evans at 4K, stone minimum. Again, I mentioned this is the only guy of this group that was in camp with this team. I guess Royce Freeman was around, but he's called up off practice squad. This is a 6th-round pick with a lot of production in college. But 16% owned right now on Zach Evans, and we don't even know what that running back room is going to look like. Puka Nacua, once again, looks like a great pivot. We're looking at like 8-9%, 7,600. They bring him down. And if you look at the role, it's still very good. I know it's not numbers from before Kupp, but it's still a very good role. I don't have any issues with Kupp. Don't get me wrong. Kupp's a great play. But Nacua, if you're looking for the salary saving and half the ownership, would once again be the guy.
I think you're looking at Robert Woods from a couple of years ago. I just don't think he's going to be capable. I don't think Stafford can stop himself. Like, it's a legit disease because they have such a good rapport and he feels like he's getting open on every play. I just don't believe that he can look away from Kupp enough with the current status of the team. And, I still wonder if Nacua was on another team, what he would have been doing, because we've seen Stafford elevating everybody from Golden Tate to Kenny Galladay. So we don't really know that. But what I do know is that when Kupp is in that lineup, it's just so hard to have a massive game. I think the year where Cooper Kupp broke that record, Robert Woods had one ceiling game until he got injured. But it was just down week after down. If you were waiting for the Robert Woods week, you ended up waiting like 7 weeks. And I'm the kind of guy who doesn't like to repeat a mistake. So I understand the ownership's not going to be as high, but I'm going to go away, or not even close to as high. I'm going to go away from that. But in that same game, if we're doing secondary stacks, now that we got Deontay Johnson back and we saw a little life before the bye from Pickett with Pickens, and then they're getting Freiermuth back, don't be surprised if they're just a little bit better, because Deontay Johnson is that
I think
guy.
It's totally a fine play. I think all these guys, again, Rams defense has been better than expected so far this year, considering they have Aaron Donald and no other talented players. But Freiermuth, interesting play at 3,900. They've been bad against tight ends. I think you could go stacks with the bring back here with Stafford. My issue there is Stafford has not shown a semblance of a ceiling either. And I'm not playing Pickett in LA. I don't think that's where I'm going. If you do want to, I guess you can consider it. He's stone min basically. He's 5K, and I've told you how the last couple of weeks the optimal quarterback has been in this range. So if you want to do it, you could do it. I question the ceiling for sure. And the only thing I'll question, the only thing I'll circle back on this game is Puka. I'm a little bit more bullish than you. He's played basically every snap, and he's still earned targets in the 2 games with Kupp. I get that Kupp is the clear wide receiver 1. But it was Robert Woods at age 30 versus Puka Nacua at age 22 or whatever. It's just a little bit of a different story. I totally get the sentiment, and I would have preferred if he was looking at like 4 or 5% than 9-10%. We're still looking at 9-10% on Puka.
All right, Gary, you want to talk about some cheap running backs that I got for you? Because I'm not even bringing one to the party. I'm bringing like 3 to the party.
Bring them all. Let's go. We got to talk about this guy before you do it. I don't know if you're going to bring him up, but he's Chalker, baby, because he's coming in. He's going to be Chalk. We're talking to Kenneth Chalker, 7K at home versus the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, we're going to get Chalker galore this week, I would imagine. I haven't even looked yet, but I got to imagine he's going to be the chalkiest play. And I'm right.
I hope he is
tied with Isaiah Pacheco. So Kenneth Chalker, your chalkiest running
guys. I got news for you. I'm off the chalk this week.
Whoa, we're off the chalker.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you know what? If Kupp is my only one, so be it. Then that's fine, because I'm about to give you 3 cheaper running backs.
Right, what do we got?
We're going to start with a guy who's going up against your team, who hasn't found himself in proper game scripts these last couple of weeks. I'm talking about Brian Robinson, who this team will give endless attempts if they have the lead. This is Ron Rivera. They notoriously hate Gibson. When they're trailing big in games, they have to use Gibson a little bit more because of how he plays in the passing game. But if you're getting a game script where Brian Robinson is up, you're looking at 25, 30 carries, something like that, goal line work. Sam Howell's getting sacked left and right. So if you think the Giants are going to lose this game, and I'll let Gary, tip his cap as to whether he thinks they're going to be in it or be trailing or be leading.
He'll be in it.
But if you're somebody who thinks this is either a close game or Washington will have a lead, then I'm going to Brian Robinson. Earlier in the year, if we look at like his first 2 games when things were going well for them, it's like, what a value. Anybody who drafted Brian Robinson, he's the guy you wanted. He's getting the goal line work. He's getting touchdowns. And look, he was like a 0 in the passing game last year. He's at least getting a few this year. The numbers are a little bit better. He's got 11 catches on the year. And I think he has 2 receiving touchdowns on the year, which is relatively impressive. He has 5 touchdowns on the year. But most importantly, in these kind of games, you just want to try to, if you're going to take a running back on a bad team, you pick them in a spot where it's going to be relatively competitive. Now, this isn't a Diaz, this is just an Andy type of thing. And this is the game where I feel like he can really get, you can get a bang for your buck on Brian Robinson.
No issues. And I do think in general, you're looking at a tier here at running back, like starting from Pacheco down almost 6,100 down of guys that you need to consider this week, because there's a lot of good spots, including Brian Robinson, that are going to save you some money. So I totally understand that, right? Jerome Ford, Rashad White, these guys are.
Really so that's number 2 for me. Somebody who they just dismissed him in that Jerome Ford guy. I saw that Kareem Hunt had a touchdown. Isn't it Kareem Hunt's role? No, secretly, an extremely efficient runner who still has that home run potential against the Niners defense, averaged 4 yards per carry, and he just hasn't found that right spot yet. A couple weeks ago, they got down early at home against Baltimore with the backup quarterback and everything. Coming off that game last week, I do think Ford still has that potential to pop some long runs. And when you look at their upcoming matchup, this, just like the last game I talked about, is one where their D can impose their will on the other team and they can continue to hand it off. So even if Kareem Hunt has to get his fair share, I think there's going to be plenty to go around for Ford. I think Ford is a great play, and I just refuse to believe people are going to click on his name after seeing Hunt score that relatively nice touchdown last week. And then the last one.
Go ahead.
The last one for me, Gary just said that AJ Dillon has been absolute dust. Well, even he had a good game against the run defense of the Raiders. And by the way, I'm not talking about AJ Dillon. Even he had a good game against running the ball against the Raiders. Ramondre Stevenson, who hadn't had a game all year, even he had a game against the Raiders. Despite what Foreman did last week, and when you look at the end of the day, okay, 65 rushing yards and whatnot. Number one, make sure you pay attention to see if Roschon Johnson's coming back.
Yeah,
Number two, if he's not, I would love for it to be Roschon Johnson because you're going to get carries, catches, and everything in between. The Foreman was inactive before all those guys got injured. I would love for Roschon to come back at 46. So that would be my biggest hope. But even if not, I'll go right back to Foreman in this game because you're going to be getting a backup quarterback with both of these teams. So give me the team whose running back is going to be able to get some yards every single time. Deontay Foreman's one of those guys, when he gets to 20 carries, he usually somehow, one way or the other, bulldozes his way to either 100 or a touchdown. I know last week didn't go the way that many had hoped, but this week against that run defense, I just want to remind you, AJ Dillon did not even like, he kind of did nothing. Absolutely nothing against everybody. And even he had a good game against the Raiders. Start your running backs against the Raiders, and that's another cheap option you could go to here. According to me, those are 3 cheap running backs that I think you could have in your lineup this weekend.
Yeah, I get that. The field agrees with you on Jerome Ford, especially as of right now. But I understand why you think the field will be going away from it. 5,100 is cheap, and I think that's probably what it is. You want to go right into Men's Warehouse here? I mean, I was looking at this Arizona-Seattle game. I think that's one to talk about. Seattle's got the second highest team total on the week, 26.5. They're at home. They got Arizona. Seattle's looked pretty good so far this year. I think this is one to attack because Arizona's been fighting back at the very least. So I don't mind this game here. Yeah, I don't have it.
Choose your fitting room. How many items do you have, sir? Oh, that's right. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get this suit and tucking it under my clothing so I can walk out of here and have myself a free suit. Don't make me tell you how many items I have. I'm going in there. I'm trying on this suit, and then I'm coming on right back out of there. And my Men's Warehouse of the week, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that other people agree on this matter. But I'm just going to stick with it because then I'd be making a panic Men's Warehouse. And if you've ever picked up a panic suit that you didn't try on properly, you know you're screwed. You didn't try on those shoes? Just wait till you see those blisters in your feet. That's why I'm going to go with Jerome Ford in this one. Nice. I'm going to do it. I mean, hey, look, sometimes the owners, they didn't know 50% was coming in on most, but there's a reason I named this Look Who's Chalky, because I know that guy who drives in the left lane while people have to go around him. Your average person who watches Red Zone, they saw the Kareem Hunt touchdown, they called their friends, you say, I'm starting Hunt next week, and nobody's excited about Jerome Ford, who hasn't had a good week since that game where he played in relief of Chubb, but he actually has secretly been fine. They use him in the passing game. I wish that Hunt wasn't used as much in the passing game. I wouldn't mind seeding the carries, but I'm going to go with Jerome Ford as my Men's Warehouse pick of the week. That's 2 cheap running backs in a row, under 5,400. So we'll see how that one goes.
And listen, all chalk isn't created equally, right? Like we talked about this last week. Is that the name of the episode? All chalk is not created
100%.
But it's a serious sentiment. I mean, again, the Raheem Mostert thing with last week, it's a give and take. It's a paradox, because if touts and ownership providers, your company Stochastic, my company ETR, if they had put Raheem Mostert at 50% owned, he probably would have been 30% owned. But because we had him at 30% owned, he was 50% owned. And so it's a tough, give and take and push and pull with these things. But where I'm going to go this week is, one of our more traditional type flag plants. I mentioned the Seattle-Arizona game that I think is going to be popular. Everyone wants to play Kenneth Walker, and I get it. Great play. But the Cardinals have also given up big games to receivers. And everyone wants to go Tyler Lockett because he's only 6K. We know there's a ceiling there. I want to go to DK Metcalf. I mean, look, it hasn't been the best, and he missed practice today. So take this with a big grain of salt. He came back in the game with a rib injury, and it's kind of been nagging at him. If he goes, the targets are still there. This is, I think, sub 7K. We like that. We haven't had a huge game yet. If he's out, I'll provide another Men's Warehouse on social media. But for now, I like Metcalf, assuming he's going to go at only 6,800 in this game that I think you should be attacking because there's not that many great environments on the week. And Seattle certainly looks like one of them. 11% on Geno Smith, 26% on Kenneth Walker, 14% on Tyler Lockett, only 5% right now on DK Metcalf.
That's pretty incredible. That's a great Men's Warehouse, and that's a great stack to use this weekend, because if everyone's playing those players, I don't want to hear that this game can't end up like as one of those random 4 o'clock. Oh my God, look at the score, because they haven't really been involved too many with those. But you saw early in the game, they were going tit for tat with the Bengals, and then just something weird happened where all of a sudden it didn't continue on. Like the game started out hot and then just completely cooled down, which is always a random funny thing that can happen. But I really like that call, and I really like that game for a potential
that
snake.
That game's got to be good for this week for sure.
Yeah. So
there you go.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
40 minutes here. We're in and out, man. And you know what? I think we did a good job breaking things down. So I'm happy with that.
100%. And like you said, it's not like there's this variety of matchups. I'm going to be very interested to see. I'm willing to put my eggs out of one basket by not choosing that Chargers game. I love the Chargers. I'll stick by them in terms of these, fantasy game potential shootouts, but I just couldn't forgive myself. We're not at week 3 or 4 anymore. I'm not doing these chief quote unquote shootout games. We'll see if I pay the penalty. And I guess that's probably how we'll open up last week. Remind me, all chalk is not created
Not all
equal.
Chalk is created equal. Yeah, not all chalk is created equal. And you know what? We say a lot of silly things on this show, like the chalk podge, the Chalkroach. I come up with all these little stupid quotes. That one, I stand by. I really do stand by that one. Not all chalk is created equal. Raheem Mostert last week ended up being good chalk. Andy thinks Jerome Ford this week will end up being good chalk. Not all chalk is created equal.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, another week in the books. We'll be back with you next week. Hopefully, we're all a lot richer. Hopefully, you guys are all a lot richer. And then we can, talk about all sorts of things that we're going to do to enjoy the fruits of our sniff. All right, make sure you subscribe here. If you're watching on YouTube, tell your friends about the show. Make sure you download, click the notifications, all that fun stuff, because sometimes we get these out Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. It's always happy days, but we always want to let you know when it comes out. So make sure you're subscribed on all platforms and social media. We really appreciate it. Gary's got his stuff on Establish the Run. I got my stuff on Stochastic's YouTube and my own personal YouTube. Subscribe to all things and your life will be better. You want good karma? Are you a karma believer? You want to come here and please take one and leave, like Halloween, which is around the corner? You want to take the whole basket? Well, do something for us as well. Spread the good word and follow us on all platforms. That's enough for me and Gary. Gary, unless you need to say anything, we'll be back with you next week.
Mountain View.